Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today we're going to be talking about the newest EP from The Weeknd called My Dear Melancholy. Let's be honest, we all knew this was coming. We all knew that The Weeknd had seemed a little too quiet for too long. Yes, he showed up on that Black Panther song and that was a hit, but the last few hits from Starboy had sunk away and the other artists had surged in to seize the hype in modern R&B, usually by ripping him off with a trap flourish. And when word dropped that he had a surprise project and fake track list began flooding the internet with words suggesting he was going back to his old sound, it was hard for me to work up a lot of excitement. And given that it might seem kind of weird, given how often he's wound up on my year-end list for singles, and that doesn't even get to False Alarm, which is arguably the best thing he's released since Thursday, but those are individual songs, not full projects. Hell, I say that the only full-length projects I say were truly gripping and great all the way through from The Weeknd were Thursday and Echoes of Silence. And while many were saying the EP was going back to his old sound, when I didn't see Elangelo's name on the production list, I wasn't remotely convinced. No Clams Casino there either. But hey, kept it short, 6 songs in just over 20 minutes. There were some intriguing names like Skrillex and Nicholas Jar of all people on production, and we didn't get that XXXTentacion collaboration I saw lurking on some fake track lists, so alright, what the hell? How is My Dear Melancholy? Well, honestly, I'll be very blunt. If The Weeknd wasn't such a hot property that I can guarantee a fair few songs will probably hit the Hot 100 from this thing, I probably would have put this on the trailing edge. Folks, there is so little here worth caring about. It's genuinely startling from The Weeknd, with individual songs feeling more distinctive for what the specific producers are bringing to the table than anything The Weeknd is really saying or doing with the songs. It quite literally sounds like a collection of desaturated, crooning B-sides that should have been cut from Kissland. And considering how thoroughly mediocre Kissland was, get over it. It's been 5 years. I doubt even die-hard fans would admit that it's his best work in either R&B or pop. I'm sorry, not a good sign for his first ever EP. But even then, My Dear Melancholy, it raises larger questions surrounding the production direction. Because if you're looking for a project to be wowed by The Weeknd's vocal delivery, this is not it. For me, he's always been at his most compelling when he either leans into his slick, very vibrant coolness or his unstable, nihilistic intensity, the distinctive ugly side where the dichotomy comes most to bear on songs like False Alarm, and it's awesome. Now, Crooner Weeknd, look, there's just not the same edge, there's not the same presence. And on this project, it seems like the production is more interested in submerging him into waves of murky electronics and dour synthesizers, or making very obvious callbacks to other Weeknd songs, or just sampling them outright. I don't even like Earned It, but Call Out My Name is obviously trying to capitalize on that tempo and vibe from the waltz cadence to the sample to the stately vibe that does nothing to utilize the Nicholas Jar sample and features some blown out vocals for no apparent decent reason. And that's not even getting to the samples of other Weeknd songs on that track. It's not just Earned It. But frankly, I would probably prefer those to the gummy synth choices on Try Me, or the ugly, wheedling air horn blast that characterize both I Was Never There and Hurt You, both courtesy of the French producer Gesaffelstein, most of which seem to have more actual presence forward in the mix than The Weeknd's vocals. Now granted, on the former song I do appreciate that beat switch into a major key for a dark, kind of swampy bridge, but it's then followed by a tune where The Weeknd is sampling his own collaborations with Daft Punk, both Starboy and I Feel It Comin', and it's hard not to feel like they're immediately better thanks to a greater sense of groove and tightness. Now the final song, Privilege, gets close to a slightly more textured lo-fi vibe, but then it seems to drown itself out in dank vocal filters, and any faint wheedling whistles can't help but feel utterly suffocated in the mix. It's got the atmosphere, sure, but little else. And honestly, I struggled to find one song that had much of a hook or really stood out to me melodically beyond just murky rehashes of content The Weeknd has done before and done better, so alright fine, what about the lyrics? Well, like the rest of the record, it's kind of murky. Most of these are just post-breakup songs seeing The Weeknd slip back into the same booze and pills and casual sex-soaked depression that racked so much of his earlier work, with references to exes both Selena Gomez and Bella Hadid. Now, granted, The Weeknd is handling none of these situations well, but to give him the slightest bit of credit to the production, it does actually reflect somebody slipping into a miserable downward spiral, so the framing is at least accurate and kind of on point. And it's telling on songs like Try Me and Wasted Times, he at least tries to attempt the rebound, but you can also tell the sex was pretty much the only tenuous connection they had to any of them. He knows it, and he's just forestalling against the inevitable. And you know what? To The Weeknd's credit, you don't really have to know or really care about the gossip to follow the thin arc we get on this EP, even if it's the sort of arc that leaves us back at square one with The Weeknd. Now, this is not normally something I would bring up in reviews, any sense of continuity from album to album, but considering the writing is just not all that detailed or interesting for The Weeknd, it does bear some scrutiny what sort of backslide this represents for him, because thematically his arc has not been traditional love stories or breakup stories or even just the cheap debauchery, but reconciling the possibility that he can be vulnerable, he can be loved. That was the ending point of Starboy, and when you have privilege of explicitly saying he was going to go back to his old ways, yeah, it might make for some more interesting, vivid stories of debauchery, but what concerns me a lot more is that this EP didn't make that downfall all that interesting or compelling, just a sour wallow before succumbing to the same melancholic, self-pitying nihilism we've seen so many times before. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but The Weeknd finding love and a belief that he could love another was a lot more emotionally compelling than any arc on this project. Ugh, look. This is an EP with a very specific purpose and arc, and it feeds into the gossip to provide a snapshot of The Weeknd's life and arc within his music. And if anything, it reminds me a lot of Tove Lo's Ladywood, another desaturated exploration of bleakness and finding themselves, just losing themselves in that cheap party. But again, it also feels like an underwritten backslide. To The Weeknd's credit, his self-awareness adds to good framing both in the content and the production, but a near total lack of good hooks and momentum leaves this let-in and feeling a lot longer than it really is, and that's not a good sign for this sort of EP. For me, light 5 out of 10, only recommended to the die-hard fans, and otherwise, you can just skip it. It doesn't exactly give me any good feelings where he and his content will go next. He says he's ending it all with a smile, but it's a pretty damn rictus one from the sidelines. But hey, it's only an EP. We'll have to wait and see. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I'd like to like and subscribe. I'd be more than grateful. I'm amazed I got this much out of this video, and my voice is still kind of hoarse. I'm kind of happy it's short. You want to buy it? Links below. Polls up there for y'all to tell me how wrong I am for you Weeknd stans. Really, though, this is not his best, and you all pretty much should know that. Beyond that, if you want to get involved in my scheduling process, link to my Patreon is right over there, where 3 times a week you guys get to vote on my schedule, and once a week for the higher tier contributors, guys get to add albums, movies, or even a top 10 list to that schedule. More details right over there. I recently reconfigured it from a per video to a per month structure, so it's a little easier to hop in. And if you guys want to actually see that schedule, it's on my Instagram, link below. Till next time, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.